Good evening, everyone, and a big thank you to Dr. Manori once again for giving me this opportunity, an opportunity that I look forward to meet all my dear seniors and mentors and guides at the Servants of the Buddha, and all of you who are joining virtually as well. So the topic we chose today in consultation with Dr. Manori is the dependent origination. And in doing so, what I hope to do is to share a simplified version of it for your benefit. So let me share the screen with a few slides. Okay. So the dependent origination as a topic, I find especially in my teaching at the Dhamma school, it's a lovely topic that ropes in all the main theories, so to speak, of Buddhism. And it's considered the heart of it. So before we jump into it, I'd like to present what I would like to call the big picture of why are we doing this in the first place. If you notice how humans generally live from the time we are born, we are trying to make sense of the world. And as we grow up, we realize that there are things we like and there are things we don't like. And when we become adults, it's almost decided by ourselves that the things we like are good and right, and the things we don't like are not good. And these become our own unique views. And then we realize that there are others, many others who share feelings like this. And we naturally get attracted to those people. And if you notice who we associate, most often they are very like-minded people. And then we form cliques, groups, and friends. And we also are quite aware of other cliques and groups who are probably not so aligned into our thinking. And it is easy then to interpret it as, you are the good guys and they are the not so good guys or girls. And then, of course, as a society, we follow the general instructions of go to school, get educated, work, amass wealth for your own safety, protection, and comfort, and marry, have children, and live happily ever after. Now, logically, that means by the time we get to at least middle age, life should be a really sensational, amazingly happy state. At least that's what I thought when I was schooling, that, one day when you're done with your education and not living on pocket money anymore, you are earning a living, you're your own boss, master, no one to tell you what to do. Life must be amazing. But it's interesting that the more we live, the more acutely aware that things are not that great. And there are many adults who say that, things were really great when you were a child. And as children, we were waiting to become adults. So why I'm mentioning this is, amongst all human beings, there is this awareness, and I think we are all unified by the commonality of it, that I want to be happy and I do everything to be happy. And that happiness doesn't stay with me. It's momentary, it's very illusionary. And then this whole thinking about, now what more do I need to do when I'm happy? So some people allude this to midlife crisis, because you have done everything that society tells you to do, and happiness is still far away. In fact, the older we get, we realize that the problems accumulate, they are not going away, because whatever we try to solve it with, it creates yet another whole group of problems. So this is not something that we are alone in. This is age-old, an age-old problem. And many people have looked for answers. And if you see the religions that believe in an almighty God, the answer is one day when you are no more, you are in heaven, which is blissful forever. And that is indeed an answer in a place where you're looking for answers. Then the other school of thought is that after you die, you keep getting born into a cycle which is called samsara, and in order to get to that happy state, you need to stop the rebirth. I have often wondered, like, so which one is the correct one? And you cannot ignore the fact that we all, depending on the families we get born into, get brainwashed into the doctrine of that family. And that is quite normal. And then, of course, as you grow into adult, you start questioning, is this actually right? Is there something else? So I too have been looking far and wide, and what I have finally realized is birth and death and what happens thereafter, you need experiential wisdom, and I certainly don't have it. So then what is the best way? The best way is to go with what is in front of what you're really sure of. Everything else, until you either get enlightened and get the prajna that you can see the other births and so on, and then it is very evident. Until then, it looks like it's theory. So therefore, dependent origination was not something that I was actively interested in, because I felt, how are you going to get experiential wisdom about this? However, when I got the opportunity to study it and hear it from many erudite monks who really simplified it, broke it down, it's amazingly interesting. There is a logical flow into it, and with your intuition, it sounds like it's right, and therefore I thought it might be a good topic for us to explore. So if you go to the Buddha spoke about a 12-factor formula for the dependent origination. He also spoke about a 4-factor simplified version. The most popular version is this 12-factor formula. So today what I'm going to do is run through the 12 factors and give you the explanations that I have come across through many talks that I have listened to and books that I have read. So it starts with avijja paccaya sankhara. Now, before we even go into this, the dependent origination, the 12 factors, is considered a circle. Now, what is interesting about a circle is there is no start or end, because it is a circle. So it also goes to say that you can break it at any point, and there is no starting point. Because this is given to us in 12 numbers, many times people feel that the first one is the starting point and the 12th is the ending point, but that's not the case. It's just a place where you start to explain and a place where you end explaining, but it can be broken at any of the points. So avijja paccaya sankhara, and the meaning is through ignorance, karma formations are conditioned. So what we need to explore is then, what is ignorance? Now, it is interesting that throughout humanity is not that old, about 10,000 years. People have been trying to understand what this is all about. So Hinduism is about 6,000 years old. And the Buddha, in his lay life, he was a Hindu. So he was exposed to all the thinking of that time, and that was rich thinking. But it is said, or rather it is said that once in an eon comes one person who is intelligent enough to really see through what is really happening. And that person is then a Samma Sambuddha. So what Buddha saw that what we think is real is actually not. And there is something else that is going on. So he called it the absolute or the ultimate truth and the perceived truth. So what we see is what we perceive, and he encouraged us to see the reality. So the Buddha, what he gave as a gift to the world are some knowledges that you can actually patent to the Buddha. So the dependent origination, you can patent to the Buddha. Vipassana or the Vidarshana meditation, again, is another patency. The noble truths, the three characteristics of existence. So there are some unique things that only he brought to the world that is not spoken or referred to in any other religion to date. So he always refers to an ignorance, and that is what normally humans are believing in. And this he referred to as it like a river flows easily. Its nature is to flow downwards. So the humans flow through this ignorance, life after life in this cycle of samsara. And the few who break through this and see the reality, the whole effort and the journey towards it, he alluded to, it was similar to swimming upstream in a naturally flowing river. The river flows naturally downstream. And in order to break through, it's like you are flowing upstream, going against the flow. And here, if we see what is this all about, we need to understand the Panchaskandha, how we make sense of this world and how we make sense of the life we are living. So the Panchaskandha, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. The Rupa part starts with our 6 sense doors. Now here also it's interesting that in the Western thinking, they refer to 5 sense doors. And in the Eastern thinking, there are 6 sense doors. So where the mind is the 6th sense door. And this is interesting because in the Panchaskandha, in order to, the process starts with Rupa, and that is the sense doors that are in the body. So mind as a sense door is in the body, but Vijnana, which is the consciousness, it's also part of the mind. So the many monks refer to this as the doer and the knower, right? So when thoughts automatically get generated, that is the mind as a sense door, and observing that is the consciousness or the knower. So this is another way to look at this is, if you get angry because of something you see or hear, and then if you are aware that you are angry, the anger part came from the mind as a sense door, but being aware that you're angry is the consciousness, right? And this is something you are quite familiar with, to have an emotion and then to be conscious of that emotion, right? So ignorance is all about when, let's take an example. And my favorite example is usually with a dessert. If I walk in to the pantry and I see a butter cake on the table, I would instantly reach out and take a piece and eat it. Now, what is going on there? So my eye sees a cake. Now, the interesting thing is the eye is a door. So the eye cannot recognize what is being seen. What transmits to the eye is a visual, colors, shapes, right? the whole conclusion that what is being seen is a cake is not at the eye, because the eye is just a sense door, a data transmitter. So whatever the visuals, the colors, the shapes, it gets converted into electronic data, and from the eye, it gets transmitted to the brain through the optical nerve, right? And there in the brain, you are making sense of the brain is like a supercomputer. So Rupa, Vedana, Sanya. Now, while the first instance you see something, how the Buddha explained this is you need your eye as a sense door, you need to see something as a visual, and then when your mind's attention goes there, that there occurs contact, phassa. With that phassa comes Vedana. Now, initially the Vedana is feelings. Initially the Vedana is neutral because you haven't interpreted as to what you are saying. So as your mind, the mind's attention, the eye and the visual object connect, there is phassa or contact, and through that Vedana, so Rupa Vedana. So initially it's neutral Vedana. Then Sanya. Sanya is your perception. So that is, think of it like your memories. From the time you were born up to now, everything that you have put into your supercomputer brain. So this supercomputer is now going to interpret what has been seen. And the interpretation is, this is cake, this is actually butter cake. And all the sensory impressions around it, the taste, the feeling you get, all of that comes flooding in. And the Vedana gets, the neutral Vedana gets replaced by pleasant sensations because it's something you like. So behind these mental, these memories is a lot of judgment. This is something good, this is something I like. So Rupa, Vedana, Sanya. And then comes the Sankhara, the reaction to all of this. So what is the reaction? The reaction is to, you want to taste it. So you reach out and you take a piece and you eat it. And when you eat it, it tastes good. And it confirms more your memory that this is something you like. And then the upadana starts happening where you like, I want some more. Right? Now, imagine that was the last piece of cake. And that's where it is interesting. Now, the last piece of cake, I have eaten it. Now, I cannot see any cake anymore. But because I ate it, now the whole taste buds and the past memories and the present memory, all of it is telling me, wow, this is very nice. I wish I had another piece. Now, imagine you are now continuing to react on something that is not even visible anymore. So the process started because I saw something. And now I have gone on to hold on to it with a great liking. Now, similarly, the opposite is also true. I might see, let's say I open the gate and come out and I nearly trod on some doggy poop, right? And that is not pleasant at all to the eye, is it? Again, the eye sees colors and shapes. It's just a transmitter. What is telling me that this is doggy poop, I don't like it, the neighbor's dog, shouldn't the neighbor look after their dog? That dog is always, disturbing my entrance. And all of that entire story is in the perception. So Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara. And then the reaction of, I must tell my neighbor off, right? How inconsiderate of them. So all of that. So where was the trigger? The trigger was what you saw, right? Now we believe that all of this is how living is. I am living, I am making these decisions, this thinking is mine. Now this is where the Buddha said, this is ignorance. This is ignorance if you think that this is all happening in your control. He alluded to this as some automatic process. Every living being, if you have healthy eyes, you will see. So the Rupa part will happen. And the Vedana part is automatic, isn't it? And the Sanya part, the perceptions are there because of something that you have decided that this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. The whole thinking of me, myself, I, the thinking of there is a person here making these judgments. And it's that judgment that changes the feeling into pleasant or unpleasant, and you move into reaction. Now, the Buddha said at one point, what you see is only what you see. It's just, if you really think about it, it's just shapes and light, isn't it? What is there to get excited? Whether it is butter cake or doggy poop, there's nothing to get excited. And that is how an enlightened being would look at it. What I see is just what I see. And if that is the view you are going to have, if that is the perception you are going to have about what you see, then there is no reaction. So even the listening to this and thinking about this can influence our thinking. Now, the more we think on these lines, you start applying it to your daily practice. So recently I saw a beautiful picture of a parrot. You see those multicolored parrots on a nice foresty area. Now, many years ago, when I saw that, I would have thought, oh, what a beautiful parrot, what a beautiful forest area. I would like to see this myself. But this time when I saw the picture of that parrot, I was thinking, oh, this poor thing, like all other beings in this world, this poor being is only occupied with 4 things: eating, sleeping, drinking, and reproduction. That's it. There's nothing else going on that being's mind. And here we think, oh my God, how sweet, how cute. What we think as sweet and cute is really nothing sweet and cute about it. It's just nature trying to make a life. And that life can be quite cruel, brutal. And the reality behind those beautiful pictures is it's a very hard life. And every being is just trying to survive, not get eaten by another being, and try to feed its hunger. And when you think of it like that, there's nothing really to see in it other than compassion for that being, and to bless that being, and to think that I hope things will be good for you. I hope you'll have a good life. And the more you get engrossed with understanding the true nature of things, you find that actually that is more interesting. That is more interesting. And we will practice a small meditation at the end to understand this. What is really going on is to observe the 6 sense doors, to see where the data transmission starts, and to recognize, to see this entire Panchaskandha process in play. So when you see something, or when you hear something, so especially when you are meditating, your eyes are closed mostly, unless you are walking. Your eyes are closed, and you can assume that there is nothing good or bad to smell. So you can approximately take your nose as closed. And since we are not eating or drinking at that time, you can take as your mouth or the tongue sense door as closed. So there are 3 sense doors closed and 3 fired. You can hear, you can feel, and you can think. So when you close your eyes and you are just observing, let's say you hear a sound, you can observe this whole Panchaskandha process. You hear a sound, and immediately there's a liking or a disliking to that sound, a very subtle thing. And then you can almost see a reaction forming of you wanted to get up and go and do something about it, to switch it off, or to tell people to keep it down, or to close the door, or that whole reactive nature of ours, where we always want to try and control things. So this whole, I want to control my world, I want to control everything, it's all coming with that whole misunderstanding of there's a person here, there's me, there's I. So this whole ignorance, and sankhara is the sankhara you come across in the Panchaskandha. And this sankhara is what the Buddha said is karma. It's karma creating. Whether you are reacting with something you like, or whether you are reacting towards something you dislike, that reaction is what causes sankhara. So how is this going to lead to a rebirth and all? That is what is interesting, and that is what is explained in the whole Paticca Samuppada. So at this stage, it is important to understand that behind this ignorance, there are a couple of things. One is the ignorance of anitya, dukkha, anatma, where normal layman, unenlightened beings, we perceive the world as nitya, sukha, and atta, right? We also, like the river is flowing down, we are going with the flow of the Panchaskandha. Whatever that we see, we hear, we feel, we will be reacting. And the only way to break that flow is to be mindful of what is going on. So to simply observe. And here the duality of the mind, you can see a flowing mind and a still mind. So this whole flowing mind is this whole Panchaskandha part of the mind, where the mind as the thinker, as the a sense input. And the stillness is observing all of this. And this is something we do anyway, right? This, you are observing of the Panchaskandha and how these things are flowing is something we do anyway. We consciously or unconsciously, we observe that, oh, now I am feeling angry, or now I'm feeling irritated, or now I'm feeling sad. We all observe this, right? So it is more to build upon it, because what we have practiced all our life is to go with the flow, to go with the flow. We haven't practiced being still and observing, doing nothing. Rather, we are always doing and reacting and trying to control things and make things good and keep the things we like, remove the things we don't like, and trying to make things sukha and keep away from the dukkha. And that's what we have been doing from the morning, since we woke up till we go to sleep in the night, and all our life. And that is what the Buddha said is ignorance, because that is not where the effort should be. If you put the effort into doing nothing and just observing what is going on, that is where wisdom starts to come. So, avijja pacchaya sankhara, due to ignorance, you start reacting, and in that reaction, karma is formed. Sankhara pacchaya vijnanam. Now, through these karmic formations, consciousness is conditioned. Now, here, let's think about what happens when we die. Now, again, one part of ignorance is to think that there is a me, there is a I. So I was born on this X date and lived for this many years, and all that is me, myself, I. And that is how we feel, because we feel like there's an entity here. However, through Vidarshana, the Buddha said you all can understand that your body is made of small particles, especially through the Vedananupassana. In Sri Lanka, we have it as the Goenkaji technique, where people practice it. Through the Vedananupassana, you can feel the body sensations, they're changing all the time. And the more you focus on it, you can actually feel the dissolving of it, and that there is nothing. So the body is made of tiny particles, too small to see by the eye. And therefore, unless you do Vidarshana, you really can't have the experiential wisdom of this. And that is why the Buddha called Vidarshana as Ekayana Maggo, to understand what's really going on. And then the mind, the vijnana, or the consciousness is even faster, it changes even faster. So this combination, because it is too fast to see and too small to see, too fast to fathom, we mistakenly see an entity here, but actually there is no entity, there's only a consciousness. Now this consciousness, when you die, there is the last thought consciousness, right? The death consciousness. And think of it like this. The consciousness needs a vessel, and our body is the vessel to house that consciousness. Now, what happens if we are in a vehicle that is traveling at 100 kilometers per hour, and suddenly it hits something, and the vehicle comes to a standstill? Now the people inside and the other material things inside that vehicle, even though the vehicle just stopped, given the velocity, the people and the things inside will go flying outside because of that velocity. Similarly, this whole Panchaskandha is a velocity. It's a flow. And through that flow, through the reactions, there's a lot of things I want and things I don't want. Whether it is you want or whether it's you don't want, that whole wanting is the tanha. And that has created a big velocity. The whole karma, the reactions is a big velocity. So when the body drops dead, which we don't know when, it's like the vehicle hitting something at 100 kilometers per hour. When the body just drops dead, there's a lot of velocity inside, which is yearning and
Hello. Sorry, Nadeesha, we can't hear you.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone. Something happened, and can you hear me? Samanthi, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Now we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Share the screen once more. Think about it. We suddenly lost the connection. So okay, we were here, right? So I was just talking about the death consciousness, and when you suddenly drop dead, what happens? The rebirth linking consciousness is the next thing, and that is something similar to a vehicle that is traveling at 100 kilometers per hour. It just hits something, and the vehicle just stops, but the things inside will, the things inside can go flying, and that is something similar that happens when your body just drops dead. The energy, the velocity of the flowing mind and all the karmic energies takes you to the next birth. And I have read something interesting where one erudite monk wrote that you want this, you want to get reborn, because at the time the body just dropped dead, you are still on this is what I want, this is what I don't want. It's all the want, don't want, all of that wanting, all of the desires and all of that velocity is what takes you. Another way to think about this is this whole universe is built on movement. So the earth is spinning, and as a result, we are all, the gravity and the force is keeping us, we are held onto this earth's surface. What happens if the earth stops spinning? We will all get thrown out into the free space. Similarly, this flowing mind is what is keeping us going from birth to birth, this whole Panchaskanda thing. So think of it like this. You see the Rupa, the Vedana, Sanya, and the Sankhara. This, you keep reacting to what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you think. Keep reacting. And the still mind, which is to observe, this whole thing about the Buddha saying, just observe, be in the present moment. What you see is only what you see, what you hear is only what you hear. There's nothing to react, there's nothing to do here. And that is something we are not used to, rather we are used to reacting all our life. So that is what we need to practice. So Sankara Pachya Vijnanam. The more we react, the more that velocity continues, and consciousness is conditioned. When a rebirth linking consciousness gets conditioned, and again, how the Buddha explained this is a thought continent. The thought continent from the previous death consciousness to the new rebirth linking consciousness, it continues, but no person or entity goes in. So that is why the whole famous saying of, it is not you, but it is not you as well, because you are not your thoughts, but your the karmic energies, some parts of your personality, some parts of your talents, your skills, some parts of those do go into, and where we see really gifted children come forth and so on. And sometimes you hear your elders say, we don't see this in our family, this must be something the person is bringing from another birth, right? So those kind of comments come. So it's not you who is going there as 100%, because if it is you, you will remember then, okay, last birth, this is what I was doing last, and here I am now. So that's not the case. Most of us have no clue about this. And that is why it feels like it's the first time that we are all living this life. So when the rebirth linking consciousness descends into a mother's womb, as a result of that, that conditions the coming of the mind and the matter, nama rupa, because the consciousness needs that vessel, and that vessel of the whole nama rupa starts to take shape. And as a result, Namarupa Pachaya Salayatanam, through this, the 6 bases start getting conditioned. So what are the 6 bases? And here we are referring to a human being forming again. So the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body sensations, and of course the thinking mind. The 6 bases start getting conditioned. And with that gets conditioned the passa or the contact. I just refer to this to see whether I missed telling you anything. So the 6 sense bases are gets conditioned in beings who are in the sensual world. Whereas if you are if the rebirth linking consciousness went into a rupa loka, then it is said that it is only the ear, the eye, and the mind arise in that fine material plane. And if it is the arupa loka, it is just the mind base alone that arises. So if you remember, when the Buddha became Samma Sambuddha, he was looking for his 2 past teachers to go and teach this Dhamma. And he realized that both of them, on their death, they were reborn in the arupa loka, which means there was no way of reaching them and communicating the Dhamma to them. So, so in this sensual world, the 6 sense bases arises. Then Salayatana Pachaya Passo. This is all about how the impressions start taking place. So if your sense bases are properly functioning, if there is a sense object, and if your mind's attention connects the sense door with the sense object, then comes contact, right? So this is what it is referring to. That whole, when there are 6 sense bases, the sensorial and mental impressions get conditioned as a result. And Asapachaya Vedana, through contact comes this whole feelings, the pleasant feelings and so on. So feeling born by the eye, feelings born by the ear. So feelings born by the eye impression is called Chakku, Sampasajja, Vedana, and so on. So there are these detailed terms for it. But if you think of it in a simple format, the consciousness needs the vessel, the Namarupa, and with the Namarupa comes the sense basis. With the sense basis comes the whole contact. And with the contact comes feeling, right? And with the feeling, so there are the pleasant feelings and the unpleasant feelings and the neutral feelings. Now, of course, then with the feelings, which is Vedana, Vedana Pachya Tanha, that is when the whole craving part comes. And think of it like this. There are feelings that I want to continue, and there are feelings that I don't want to continue. In both of it, the want is the common piece. So Tanha is this whole wanting the good things to continue and wanting the not good things to stop, right? And that is such a powerful force. That is what is giving this velocity, this whole wanting. And the wanting comes because we believe that there is a me here and I want to control things, right? And that is where the whole avidya thing came in the beginning. So craving or tanha, with tanha comes the clinging. With tanha comes the clinging, and the clinging is something we all understand. There are things that we like and we can do without it. But then there are things that we can't do without. And that is why we lovingly allude to our child as my heart or mage pana, right? The things that we are so clinging to, then maybe our name, maybe our title, maybe our education, maybe the status in society, things that you just can't imagine giving up, right? So these are the things, and if you think about our own selves, what are those things that you can't imagine giving up? Yeah, these are the things that is tying us down to this cycle, right? Because behind that is this whole idea of there is me, myself, I, and therefore I am defined by my educational qualifications or my family name or my professional, whatever I do as a profession, or my status as a mother, a father, or a grandmother, grandfather, or as a this or a that. All of these things, it's coming from that root cause of believing that I exist. And then upadana pachaya bhava. This clinging is the process of becoming, right? And then of course, bhava pachaya jati, and because of that, you get into this whole birth cycle. And once you are born, jati pachaya jara maranam soka parideva dukkha domanassa upayassa sambhavanti. So birth, decay, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, domanassa, desire, all of those things get conditioned as a result. And then the health talked about, thus arises the whole mass of suffering. So what is interesting in this is it talks about now at the point where we are talking about the death consciousness and the rebirth linking consciousness. That is where then the Buddha explains about the different types of karma. So for example, there are 4 types, 4 groups of karma, and we are all familiar with the serious one, which is called the Anantariya Papa karma, right? So one way to think about this is, and this is something I have thought about as a child. I remember in grade 1, when we are in school, we are given red stars and black stars, right? Or gold stars. So when we were introduced the concept of karma, that whatever you do good, it's sort of recorded as a good, and whatever you do bad is getting recorded as a bad. So initially I thought, just like we have a teacher who is giving us red stars and yellow stars and black stars, there must be somebody up there keeping tabs of whether I'm good or naughty and giving me a return, right? But later, as I grew up and when I realized there's nobody keeping tabs, then I was thinking, so what is this science? That if I do something bad, it comes back and bites me. And if I do something good, it helps me. How is this enforced? How does this happen? And the way I kind of made sense of it is, and that is something I believe many of you, that's probably how many of you made sense of it as well. Think of a time when I think of when I am full of loving and kind thoughts, my entire mind and my body is flooded with love and kindness and compassion. And that you almost feel like it's an energy and aura, right? And when you are, on the other hand, angry and bitter about something somebody did, and mostly it's the people close to you, and you want to hurt them back by something you want to say, you have to really conjure up a lot of venomish thoughts, right? And in my experience, I have spent hours or even days really fuming about something. And then it's so unpleasant, so unpleasant. And similarly, when you spend hours or days of good intentions, it's so pleasant. And then over time, you start to realize that, hey, I'm doing this to myself. I am creating my own hell and heaven through these energies that I create. So imagine that, and the things we are thinking about are minor things, but imagine that at a major scale. So today is something interesting at the Dhamma school. Monk asked the students, is killing an ant and an elephant the same in terms of the akusala karma that you create for yourself? And the answer he gave was that, you don't have to put much of effort and thinking into killing an ant. Now, doing both is bad, of course, but if just for an example's sake, to kill an ant, you can just shove it away, and just by that shoving, the ant can die. But to kill an elephant, you may need to plan for days and weeks and even months. And in that planning, your mind is so full of hatred, venom, toxicity, that your entire mind and body is in a really bad place, right? So imagine the karmic energy you are creating when you are, because if you think of the heinous crimes like killing your mother, your father, an arahant, and so on, the energy that it would create around you, and how it can actually cause harm for you birth after birth. And the more number of births that are between that original incident and you, of course, you can understand that the effect will get lesser and lesser. And that is why the Buddha said that it will take eons to get away from that. And that's probably understandable, because when you're going to get reborn, you're most likely to get reborn into a place that has similar energies. So if you spend most of your life being wicked, and you are used to an aura or energy of that nature, your rebirth linking consciousness probably is going to go and land you in a place which is similar. So that birth too, you'll be probably into up to no good, and so on and so forth. It will take a long, long time to break that cycle, right? And similarly, the good you do would be similar as well. So most of you, if you think about your Dhamma journeys and think, what caused you to be born into this particular circumstances? When I thought about it, I was thinking, was my interest in meditation because I was born into a family of serious meditators? So my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, my father, my aunts, they were all what I would call serial meditators, right? My grandparents would go for 45 days, 60 days. So would my mother, my aunts. So growing up as a child, that was a normal thing. That was something normal people do. So the question is, did that condition me into my interest into meditation, or was I born into this family because that kind of matched with my interest of a prior birth? So that is something to think about. Anyway, coming back into this, so what do we do? Now, this is a theory ultimately. So what do we do to practice this? If you go back to the beginning, which is avijja sankhara, so that is the place. This is the problem. And what the Buddha said was, each man and woman is for himself, herself. This is something you have to figure out on your own. That's number one. Number two is, every human can figure this out. That is the good news. Number three is, you don't have to be super intelligent to do this. Just an average intelligence is sufficient. So which means technically almost all humans, this is fine. You can figure it out. The only difference is, do you want to, right? And if you want to, then what are you going to do? So just observe. And this is where I would invite you all to try this out for 5 minutes maybe, or 10 minutes to meditate a bit. Let us meditate on the stillness and observe this flowing mind, because this is the flowing mind that is going to take us, the velocity, the creation of the velocity, avijja paccaya sankhara, that whole thing is coming from the reaction. Whereas the still mind, if you think of a Rahatan Vahanse or enlightened being, the still mind doesn't react. You will see the butter cake, you'll see the dog poop, and your enlightened mind has new memories, which is in your perception to say that it is what it is. There's really nothing good or bad or right or wrong about these things. It is what it is, right? And there is no reaction other than for understanding that everything is impermanent, and therefore nothing can cause you happiness. And there is no permanent entity here in control of all of these things. And that gives rise to a no reaction scenario. There's no reaction. And no reaction means there is no rebirth, because there is avidya is replaced by vidya, and no sankhara, no karma. So it has, this whole process has come to a stop. The process has come to a stop. So it is like the vehicle traveling at 100 kilometers per hour. It slows down and it stops. When it is stopped, there's nothing else. And when one day the body has the conditions that caused our becoming ends, and that's it. There's no more journey. So let us practice observing the flowing mind with our still mind. And I invite you to sit comfortably and close your eyes gently. And let's focus on what we can hear, what we can feel, and what thoughts come our way. So whatever it is you can hear, just observe whether you can see the liking or the disliking arising. Whatever you can feel on your body. Now you have been sitting for more than 1 hour, nearly 1 hour and 15 minutes. So there can be body discomforts. If there's a discomfort, observe it. Just see what is going on around that discomfort, how your mind is reacting to it, how you want that to go away or change your posture. You can observe all of that from the stillness of your mind. So let us just observe for a couple of minutes. I'll keep the timer for 5 minutes. Okay, start now, please. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So that brings my talk to an end. And I would like to take any questions, comments from any one of you.